welcome everyone to another broadcast of The Soul of the Everyman on the ArtistFirst Radio Network. Send your questions and comments into dj@artistfirst.com and we'll include them in the broadcast. Now here they are from their secret bat cave hideout somewhere in the eastern United States. It's the dynamic duo of internet radio. It's Michael and Margaret Lyons.
Thanks, Scott. We haven't used a dynamic duo in some time, so that's a good one to recycle. Yes, you are listening to the Soul of the Everyman, and my name is Michael Lyons.
And I'm Margaret, and welcome.
And welcome. And you folks are in for a treat because you have great timing. You are on time for our show on timing, and I think that we're going to jump right into it in a minute. But one of the things that we learned over the last year, we're almost coming up to our 1-year anniversary of the Soul of the Everyman. It'll be our 1-year anniversary at the end of this month. Is that timing when you're doing radio is everything. So we've tried to have good timing, and we tried to hit our timing marks, and you guys can be the judges of whether we've done that well or not.
This is true. Whether it flows or does not.
I think it flows. But tonight, our show is on timing, and one of the things that we all know folks who have bad timing. And I think one of the things that makes life livable or unlivable, or makes people tolerable or intolerable, is to the extent that they themselves have good timing. It's very important when you're having a conversation to have a flow back and forth, and there is a warp and a weft and a rhythm to a conversation. And you know when you're talking to somebody who's not listening to you because they're either talking over you or they're not paying attention, or you can tell that their attention is elsewhere, and then their timing, the way that they're going to try and interact with you doesn't jive with yours, or it doesn't jive with the room, or it doesn't jive with the circumstances. And so when people have bad timing, it sticks out. Because like anything in life, if you're not in the right time, you clash. Your interjection or your words don't seem to mesh with what's happening around you, or your actions are out of step, and so you kind of stick out like a sore thumb. And that to that level of timing, we've all experienced where both. We seem, your actions seem to be right in the flow. You're hitting all your marks. You seem like you can't miss the baseball, or you're making all the right moves in your daily sort of routine for the day. And then you can always tell. Well, it's like, oh, I was really on my game. My timing was great today. And then when you're off, we've all had that terrible experience where everything you do just results in yet another piece of the disaster which is unfolding in your particular day. Like you turn around, you knock over your coffee, you turn around the other way, you bang into the chair, you stand up, you bang your head, like, wow, man, I'm just a complete mess.
Right. And it's just the world. Just when you're actually doing that, it just feels like the world is out of sync, and it's actually you out of sync with the world. So it takes a grounded person to be able to reset that, become aware of it happening and not go into a reaction about or being frustrated about that happening, and to bring your consciousness to a point of stillness again, so then you can actively choose.
That is a great point, and I didn't think we would even, I didn't think that we would go there, because that's perfect. We all know when we're out of sync, and I think right at that moment is the opportunity to get back into sync. And how do you do that? And you've just brought it up. let's explore that a little bit from the point of view of you're aware at some level that your timing is certainly at that moment is off, and a lot of people get frustrated, or they get even more flustered, or they get angry because it just nothing's going right, and then they start to have this internal dialogue. Oh, nothing's going right. Everything's
Right.
going horribly for me. I'm terrible.
Right.
Instead of all that, what to do at that point is what you just said.
Right. You have to be aware, first of all, that you are going through it, because you can be swept up by your frustration or your anger. Whatever the reaction is to that moment, you can be swept up by it and go down that road and continually bump into the rocks as you're flowing downhill. Or you can stop and say, wait a minute, I can actually choose in this moment where I want to be. So it's a training in awareness in order to do that, because most of us will just launch into, well, I'm feeling this way right now, and they'll go through everything that they're feeling right now, whether it's worry or frustration or anticipation, or just it could be why can't it be, or
you're reacting.
Yeah, like why me? That's a typical one. Why me? And not to embrace that, not to engage in that, because when you're doing that, why me? Why is this happening to me? You are looking at the world only through your own eyes. It's a very self-centered viewpoint, as opposed to if you're trying to flow with the environment around you, what's happening around you, you have to expand your awareness outside of what you are seeing, and only you are seeing, to be able to breathe, to stop that spin of, well, why can't this happen, and how come it's this, and wouldn't you know, it's like all these little voices that somehow you picked up along the way that get stored in the back as all those nasty little
tongues, little talking in the back. But I like the other point that you just said is in essence, when you're out of step and you're out of timing, and you're out of timing, you tend to focus on that issue, on the problem you're having. And what you really need to do, as you said, is turn it around and say, expand your awareness outward and find out why, sense where you are and where all the other things which are in time, and why you're out, why you're,
Well, you have to first of all mark where the boundaries are. When you are focused only on what you are doing, only you and only through your eyes, you cannot see the edges of your boundaries. It's a very myopic viewpoint. To be able to shift your awareness into an outside viewpoint, an objective viewpoint, it takes training, because one of the questions you always see an adult asking a child is, oh, this is happening. Do you like it? Do you like what's happening? Or do you like that color? Or do you like, what do you like? As opposed to, well, what are you experiencing? It immediately trains the child's mind into, well, I have to know whether I like it or not, because that means it's good or bad if I like it or not. And it takes a very long time to separate out from that distinction of liking something is supposed to be good and not liking something is supposed to be bad.
And judgment.
Well, that's that. It's a child's judgment. It's like, well, it's all bad if I don't like it.
Right.
Okay.
What are bad things? Bad things are things I don't like.
Right. And as an adult, hopefully, we do understand that that's not true.
No. Bad ideas are ideas that come from other people. But to fall back a little bit, the other thing to unpack out of that is in essence when when you're out of time, your perception, your core knows it before your mind knows it. Your body or your inner sense knows that you're out of kilter, and so to recenter yourself is the first step to getting yourself back into time, into flow, and it becomes intuitive more than mental. It's not a mental exercise in the sense of saying,
No.
well,
No. If it's only a mental exercise, then you are absolutely out of step with everything around you.
exactly.
And depends on a person's personality whether or not they believe that they could possibly misunderstand what's going on around them.
Moi? What is this misunderstanding you speak of?
So it's again that's all experience and maturity, but it helps if you as a child are trained to begin to see that, to begin to shift viewpoints. And once you begin to shift viewpoints, then you begin to form that concept that everybody may be seeing the same thing, but they're getting different things out of it. That alone, that thought alone, especially for a child, is like, really? You mean you're not getting out of this what I'm getting out of this? Like, no. That's why we have conversation, so we can share.
Is that why? Well, but I'd like to just explore and hear me. When when people are in a moment, in the zone, so to speak, whatever it is, whether it's sports or writing or just some sort of a dance, or you feel effortless, buoyed. You feel like you can put no foot wrong. You can do nothing, no misstep. Your writing flows beautifully. Everything is in the zone, and you feel carried, and you know that what you're doing is exactly what you should be doing, and that feeling of being in sync and in tune with the moment is very much a almost like a Zen type of experience. You're no longer trying to grasp and move and manipulate and think and do. You're really just saying, I am in the timing of the moment. What the spirit or the universe or God is moving me, and I am moving with it just as beautifully as any other piece of the universe. It has nothing to do with the I. It has to do with the all. The moment is that timeless moment of you feel just completely carried along by that by the flow, instead of, like you were saying before, falling down the hill and hitting every rock, and then wondering, why am I hitting every rock? Because you're not in the flow. You're against it. You're going crosswise. You're trying to manipulate versus and grasp and push your way through.
Kinda. It's being carried by the flow. I mean, the example you always see is when the surfer is trying to hit that spot on the pipeline where they can just
hang there.
Yeah, it's hanging in a moment.
Yes.
It's a balance point.
Exactly. That's a great point.
Okay, so when you're being carried along and without any kind of connection to yourself or to anything around you, that's when you start running into rocks and the sand and the water starts hitting you. You know, you become flotsam. You become little pieces being carried along, as opposed to participating in that moment where you're finding that balance point, where you're taking what you have and fashioning it into something that carries you, and you can actually
influence it too.
Ride.
Mm-hmm. And I think you're right. Exactly what you just said is exactly correct. When you're not being carried along like flotsam, and you're not just pushing yourself through, you're at the balance point of both directing and being directed.
And what you're directing is not the water around you. Okay,
no.
That's what people think, that, you know, oh well, I'm going to manage things, and they want to manage the wave.
Mm.
And you're like, no.
Yes, I mean, you need performance metrics. A spreadsheet maybe.
Yeah. Well, it's again this, but that brings up the consciousness point of, you're looking at this moment and you believe that somehow you are going to influence the water and the wave,
right,
as opposed to understanding where your own boundary is. If you operate without that awareness, that's when the misperception comes in, and suddenly you become the center, and only the center, of that little moment. So you will misread the wave, because there's a part of you that's saying, I can control this, I can control this, I can shift my weight, and do it this way, and watch, I can do. It's like, no, you're shifting your weight because you're harmonizing with the motion and your center of mass and the gliding of the board, and there are many things that must come into balance. And it's not done by the mental mind. It is being done by all of you, all aspects of you. Your physical body is in place, and it's got to be in harmony with your internal, your body's understanding of where its center of mass is, and then it has to adjust to being able to stand with the board.
Well, I think you're right, but I think it's simpler than that. When you're there, you're not thinking of any of those things.
I'm not saying, that's what I'm telling you. It's not thinking. You're not thinking about, well, this is my center of gravity and this is... No. There is a body awareness, a body intelligence that you have to harmonize with, as well as the emotional aspect of you and the thinking aspect of you, as well as that spirit aspect. All the soul and the spirit all harmonizing with the body in that moment. That's why it feels effortless, because every part of you understands it has one purpose. It's not being pulled in multiple directions and multiple concerns. It's singular.
Right.
And your eye becomes single at that point. Your focus is single, so everything comes together to work as one. And then suddenly, when that happens, each part of you falls into place, into alignment, and you're alive.
And you have good timing.
Well, the timing is an aspect of that awareness at that point.
Exactly. And so when we're talking about being in the moment, it's not that you are in just one moment, but you have almost freed yourself from moment to moment. You have freed yourself from the sort of the awareness of the passage of that time, when people say they're in the zone, and we've all had that experience at one time or another, and it's a wonderful thing. You no longer care about what time it is, or everything happens. It seems almost in like a slow motion, almost in a um, hyper awareness, and yet you're not aware that you're making this tremendous effort to be hyper aware. You're not aware of what particular time it is, and athletes do it, and people do it who are just if they're doing physical activities or mental activities. The flashes of genius when you're a person who's just trying to think, and all of a sudden you just get a whole gestalt idea just drops in your lap. It's the same sort of thing. You're not aware of how it got there. You're not aware of all the pieces of you that are doing the things that have to be done in order to ride that wave. But yet it's all happening in this kind of, again, sort of hyper-aware, yet not aware moment. It's a moment of really balance, almost a perfect balance, that you are able to achieve without trying to achieve it, if you know what I mean. You're not sitting there saying, I'm going to get to the perfect balance point now.
No, it has nothing to do with planning it.
Exactly.
It's an unfolding. It's always an unfolding of a moment, and being at the very center of that so that you can experience what is unfolding around you. That's the main purpose of being. You're being there in the moment of now.
Exactly. In the moment of now.
Mhm. I mean, people want to play. It is the human gift that we are able to anticipate things. Most animals don't do that. And to plan and manipulate your environment, yes. But that's not the only thing that we can do. When people just focus on, well, we can do this, and we can do this, and we can do this, it's like, well, sure, you could. But
sure you can.
But are you missing the whole experience?
Exactly.
Just to check that little box off saying, okay, now I did this.
Right.
And it's like, well, what did you get from it? All this doing stuff, you're supposed to experience things. What are you experiencing? Can you tell?
No, I have it on Facebook. It's cool. But the enemy of that wonderful moment is time. It is this tick, 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 tick perception of time. That you have to do this, and then do this, and then do this, and then do this.
But it's not time that's the enemy. Time is only a tool or a metric. The enemy is the I know.
Well, that's also a good one. I like that.
Just sitting there and, well, I already know how this is supposed to be. So let's hurry up and get that box ticked because I've already had that experience. I know what it's supposed to be, without acknowledging the fact that nothing is ever the same. Ever. Have you found that spark that has changed this point in this particular point in time and space? Who is around you? What are the energies around you? Is there life around you? Is it a low frequency, a high frequency? Is it color? Is it depth? Is it taste? What is your experience? Have you opened your arms and your heart up to embrace something so completely new and different that you're actually able to see something from a completely different viewpoint?
Right. You're not planning the moment, quote unquote.
No.
And right here, I've written it down, we're going to have a revelation. We do this, profit. You can't plan a flash of genius. You can't plan a a moment of balance and harmony. These things are serendipitous, but you can. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, it's just that all of that, when you're participating in that moment, you are actively immersing yourself in the creative energy.
There you go. Yes.
Okay, that creative energy is the spark of the divine itself. And that is the spark that is within us. So when that comes in, there's it's like a tuning fork where
it's a harmony.
It's a resonance.
Even better, a resonance.
It's a resonance that sets up, and it's a heart resonance that sets up. So when the activity is echoing what the heart is feeling or living, being, holding, what the heart is holding, that resonance amplifies, and suddenly things around you change. Suddenly you can perceive what's around you. And timing becomes something completely different at that point.
Man, is that it? And what a segue. We're going to take time and go back to the studio, and then we're going to come back out and talk more about timing.
When tornadoes raked the South, it was ham radio that was on the air, saving lives. As communities lay in ruins, it was the hams who let their families know their loved ones were safe. When the power and cell phones went out, the hams were there, helping rescuers get the message through. Wherever catastrophes strike, amateur radio is ready. Amateur radio works when other communications don't. Contact the ARRL, the National Association for Amateur Radio, on the web at emergencyradio.org. That's emergencyradio.org.
There is a Reaper is the story of 5-year-old Christopher Aaron and his life-changing struggle with leukemia. Winner of both the Indie Bragg Medallion as well as the reader's favorite silver medal for memoir, There is a Reaper has more than 100 Amazon book reviews and a 5-star rating. It has been described as life-changing, spiritual, a must-read. Just released on Audible and iTunes, this memoir is also available in paperback and on Amazon Kindle for only 99 cents. Get your copy of this life-changing memoir today.
Hi, my name is Christina Garlick, and my new book, Nevada Rain, is now available. It's a sci-fi fantasy story for ages 14 and up. I hope you check it out, and of course enjoy. Also, you're listening to the ArtistFirst radio network that has a station for everyone.
The Fatman Gets Out of Bed is the latest book from Michael Lyons, the award-winning author of There is a Reaper. Featuring 13 original stories, this wide-ranging collection has everything. Forbidden love, gods versus demigods, weird invading aliens, sexy seductive artificial intelligence, and unusual passion between the living and the dead. All set amidst fantastic worlds of pain and loss and boundless joy. From the sublime to the macabre to the bittersweet, The Fatman Gets Out of Bed will leave you breathless with laughter, brimming with tears, trembling with suspense. Available now on Amazon.com, Google Play, iTunes, Kobo, and fine e-tailers everywhere.
Hi, this is June Trope. Check out my new book, The Deadliest Sport, available on Amazon and BarnesandNoble.com. And please visit my website, junetrope.com. And you are listening to the ArtistFirst Radio Network.
You are listening to The Soul of the Everyman on the ArtistFirst Radio Network. All past shows are archived. You can find them at ArtistFirst.com. Send your questions and comments to dj@artistfirst.com. And now back to the hosts of the broadcast, Michael and Margaret Lyons.
Thank you, Scott. That was smooth. That was great timing.
Yes, excellent timing.
Scott has the best timing. And my timing is not wonderful, but your timing is always good. And I must say, I have to one thing that folks don't know about you is that your perceptions have always been a way to guide what we've had to do in many situations as a couple and with our family, and I think you've passed some of that on to the boys, especially to our third son, who has a wonderful kind of perception of the world and a wonderful way of guiding himself with that internal voice. And I think that's something that we haven't really talked about, but your gut, your internal voice, your should I do this, and you ask yourself with the voice of the heart, ask your heart whether you should do something or not. And that's the way to kind of figure out if you're out of timing or if you're that's the part of you that perceives true. And if you start to ask your heart will start. People ignore you. Ignore your heart at your peril, because your head will always lie to you. Your head will tell you whatever you want to hear, because your head is just full of itself or full of something. But your heart is not full of it. Your heart will tell you true but you have to ask it. The heart whispers. The heart is not going to jump up and yell at you and say, do this or do that. The heart has to be coaxed, and it has to be indulged, and you have to give it some space. You have to you have to be silent for a moment. Say, should I do this? And then just shut the hell up and let your heart answer. Because your heart is not going to jump up and down and punch you in the face. Your head, on the other hand, is going to go, yeah, it's going to be great. It's going to be great. It's going to be great. We're going to be awesome. Let's do that. Yay. Chug. That's your head, especially the chug part. But your heart won't say that. Your heart will you have to open it though, right? You have to give it some space.
Yes. That is one of the basic truths that we try to really present to the boys, especially after going through what we had to go through with their brother. And that was also a key point for Christopher. Understanding that your head just wants to be heard all the time. But your heart will tell you true. It won't lie to you. It won't color things. It will just be very straight with you. And when we had to go through all the trials we had to go through with Christopher, we had decided that we were going to live a life of no regret. I do remember that. At the very beginning, whatever is going to happen, we must live with that in our heart, a life of no regret. And the only way that happens is if you do it through your heart. Because if you do something against what your head is telling you, you really don't have a regret. It's just another way of doing something. But when you go against what your heart is telling you, and you have no peace in your heart for taking a certain action, and then you go against that, you will have regret. And it's a deep regret. That's very hard to heal. So the decision to live a life of no regret is a very It's a conviction on how to live life.
Mhm.
You're going to be true no matter what. And so no matter what news we had gotten, even if it was really upsetting or disappointing news, you still understood that this is what we're dealing with. Your heart's like, okay, this is where it's at. What we do next is based on what the heart is feeling. And it was usually, what is it that you would like to do, Chris? How do you want to live your life? Because this was not our life to live. It's his, no matter how short it may have been. And to honor that in other people, they have a life that they are going through. And it doesn't matter if the head thinks it's an important life or not an important life. Why the head thinks that it's perfectly capable of making that decision is beyond me. Why is one person's life more important than another?
It isn't. But you're right. The head will tell you anything. Again, the head. The head. It's the head. So it's like, hey, I'm in charge. I'm the head. No, you're not. But the heart. I want to just go back and explore that. You're exactly right. That you don't engender regret if you just go against a head decision, if you will. So, well, I thought it was this way, and now it didn't turn out so right. So you were wrong, and you might feel upset that you were wrong. But it isn't something that's going to shatter you. If your heart says, do this, take that chance, propose to that girl, take that job, but do this thing because your heart wants it. It's something that your heart is in tune with. Follow your heart, right? And when you don't follow your heart, when you marry the other woman because her father was a banker, or when you
money.
you go in this chase the money. You say, I go into this career because it's going to give me. I really want to be I really want to be a dancer, but instead I'm going to go into nuclear medicine because it pays much better. And you go down your life and you become a nuclear medicinist and you do whatever the things and 20 years go by and you look back and you go, huge regret. I should have trusted. I should have followed my heart. I don't care if I would be poor. I would be doing what I love. Campbell, follow your bliss, which is the same thing as follow your heart. You'll never be unhappy if you're following your heart. You may die. You may fail, but you won't be unhappy because you followed your bliss. You are always happy. You're following your bliss, and you're not following the money or following the whatever else false thing that
Well, I think the experience of having a regret is not something that's explained to people.
That's very true. Yeah.
Okay, it's understanding that regret is a bitter thing, and it's something that you really would not choose if you were aware of it.
Mm-hmm.
So understanding that you have a way of not choosing the bitter, but choosing something that brings life to your soul.
With a heart for any fate.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And that is what life is.
Exactly.
The like and the dislike thing, this is what I mean by, we almost do a disservice to your little ones if all you ever ask them is whether or not they like something. Train them what is your perception?
What does your heart say?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the whole idea of putting someone within your heart means that within your heart you're able to communicate with them. You're still able to have them with you, and your heart is where you keep not just going against it, giving you regret, but it's where you keep people who you no longer are physically with you, they're in your heart. You can still talk to them directly through the heart connection, not the head. The head's going, man, 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 man. No, the heart.
It's an analogy that we had used with the boys and specifically with Chris because he was so young. At the age of 5, how do you explain to someone what love is? And to understand what relationship is, the easiest way to explain it was to show that, when you love someone, you put them in your heart, and they're always there, forever. So whenever you feel that you need to talk to that person and they're not physically in the room with you, you can talk to the mommy in your heart and ask that mommy, Mommy, what do you think I should do? And that connection, that's the beginning of understanding that relationship, that love relationship, is core to your being. And it is so true to you that you know when something is not resonating there, has no harmony there. You know what is not true because it doesn't resonate to that purity that the heart is experiencing in that moment when it loves so completely.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. That's the truth of the heart. The heart speaks true. You come to the heart of the matter. Language always informs us. When we talk of the heart, it's always that if you're talking about someone's false, his heart was black. The heart of
a hard heart.
The hard heart. We talk about a heart, and we're not talking about, guys. We're not talking about the physical blood pump that's making going ka-dunk, ka-dunk, ka-dunk. That's not it. Nor are we talking about the Valentine's Day hearts. That woo, frilly doilies. No, this heart is the part of you, the connection that you have. That's not mental. It's eternal, and that again, when you put somebody into your heart, they're there forever. Your heart truth, the truth that you find in your heart, is a direct connection to spirit, or the Holy Spirit, or whatever. You're getting. If you want divine guidance, ask your heart, and your heart will tell you true. If you say, should I do X? Should I do Y? Shouldn't I do X? When you're doing something and you know it's wrong, the wrong part, the part that tells you that it's wrong, is not your head. Your head's saying, yeah, it's going to be great. It'll be fine. No one will ever find out. It'll be great. No, your heart's going, this is wrong. Stop it right now. And if you learn to ignore that at your peril. And people do learn to ignore their heart and go with their head.
Well, it has to do with it, whether or not they are aware of what's going on around them. Mm-hmm. Again, if it's the purpose of whatever this experience they wanted to have is just to buoy up their ego, then they will ignore the heart. Because the ego does not reside in the heart. Your concept of you does not reside in your heart.
I think it's in your genes. I mean, your actual genes.
The other thing I want to bring up
is
the fact that when we speak of the heart, it is much more than just emotion. Because most people just say, oh, well, heart is just emotions and your feelings. It's like, no. Far more than that. You do have an emotional aspect of you, just as you have a mental aspect of you. But the heart is your balance point within your body for your physical body physical body intelligence as well as your spirit eternal aspect. And your soul sits there because it is the contact point of the spirit and the physical body. Your soul is seated in the heart. And that's why it's so important to understand the power you have in choosing whatever your next step is, or your next thought, or your next experience. It's seated right in your heart. So again, if you ignore the promptings of the heart, it usually leads to unhappiness, a great deal of unhappiness, and
regret. And I also wanted to, you basically said that the heart is not, you said it's not emotion, because that's the way the heart gets denigrated, or people say, well, if you're listening to your heart, well, that's just all fluffy emotions, can't quantify it. I'm going to just push that away. I want to deal with hard facts, not just the facts. And that is a wonderful conceit, because it turns the universe into this mechanism which can be weighed and measured. And yes, a lot of the physical universe can be weighed and measured, and wonderful things come out of it. But to try and abstract all things to be that which can be weighed and measured and proved and calculated is to deny the mystery of life. Not only the mystery of life, but know that the true mystery of life, the underlying reality below the percepted, below the physical perception of reality, and to really cheapen the whole experience, to make it so that we are just blobs of protoplasm with a certain amount of heartbeats in a life, and then once that's over, boink, you're back into the great nothing. No, we are eternal beings manifesting here for some period of time, a very brief period of time, and what we carry in and carry out is all through the heart. It's all through the spirit connection. It has nothing or little to do with measuring and calculating and figuring stuff out. That's all wonderful stuff. It's important to do down here. You can make a career out of it, but don't measure your life by it.
You are more than just this. And the experience of living is finding out how much more.
No, it's the whole experience of living is to find out how much more.
Well, some people seem to enjoy the metrics, dear.
And lists. Lists are important, because you'll never get anything done unless it's on the list. And then checking you off is some sort of existential experience. Watch me. Yep. Got it.
Well, it's, sometimes it is a tool that some people use, but it's
a tool.
It's supposed to be only a tool.
And as a tool, it has its place. It becomes a problem when you what you do, as we said in the very beginning of the show, when it becomes the all, when the clock and the calendar and the checklist become what you're living for, instead of the experience. And these are just the ways that we organize things a little bit so it isn't chaos.
If you think about it, why would you just render down your life into a checklist? What is the motivation in doing that?
Control and power, and a really a perception that life can be made safe. The heart is a dangerous thing. The heart can do anything. The heart, given free rein, can take you on wild, amazing journeys, which are very unsafe. There are no checklists. you could get hurt. You must be at least this tall to ride on this ride, okay? And you are not quite tall enough, but you're going to get on anyway. But the key is the heart is a dangerous thing. Checklists, on the other hand, seem quite innocuous.
Innocuous, yes.
And sort of manageable and controllable. And if you have enough of them, you can keep the whole thing going, man. With a couple of Excel spreadsheets, you are set. You let the heart into that, and it turns into a shambles. Anything could happen. You could be writing a novel on an island somewhere, and you say, how the heck, the heart, how did I get here? The heart got me here. But it's great. It's also very dangerous. Leading with your heart, having the heart in control, is also taking chances. It's giving yourself a license to be dangerous with your life. And a lot of people find that very frightening.
I guess, yes. Opening up, well, it opens your dimension of perception, because you basically, if you've got a checklist, you're looking at things in 2 dimensions.
It's a box.
It's a box. And this is, and it's only manageable in these 2 dimensions. That's all I want to look at. That's all I want to see.
Right.
But as a human being, you have many more dimensions than just 2.
Yes.
So what does that do to the person? Except limit not only their perceptions, but their choices.
Their commitment.
And it's so, people wonder why they feel so lonely.
Mm-hmm.
Like when no one understands me. It's like, well, you don't even understand yourself.
You don't know who you are. There's never a bad time to have a Disney quote. But in fact, the action of putting everything in little boxes and checklists and so on is just really a defense mechanism. It's really making things safe and not too dangerous, because
I believe the word is manageable. That's the word I constantly hear. It's like, oh no, we have to make this manageable, so we'll do this. We'll set these up,
mm-hmm.
we'll list these out, and we'll put it in a sequence, and we'll get it done. And you sit there and you go, it would be done anyway. Why do we need to do it quite this way? And it's always, we've got to do it right.
If you follow your heart, you could end up like Walt Whitman. You could end up like Henry David Thoreau. You could end up like the problem with following your heart is you could be great, or you could be a disaster, or you could be both at the same time. You could be Vincent van Gogh, a mad genius, because people who follow their heart are dangerous, and they're crazy, and they're wonderful.
And they don't fit in the norm.
No boxes.
Isn't that interesting? Why, as humans, do we need to make a norm? That's an interesting thought.
Yes, yeah.
Why is it necessary to state what is normal?
Well, and you can see where it comes from. Again, it comes from sort of managing a very big and complex and terrible thing, which is reality. Reality is tough to deal with. But once you get past the fear, you're trading so much for that safety. You're trading all the wonderfulness and the savor and the spice and the danger of life for safe little boxes. And yes, you'll get things done.
You think you're doing it. That's the interesting.
Well, you think you are, exactly, because life will still intrude. Life will still come in and hit you upside the head with a mallet, and then you have to deal. But if you're used to listening to your heart, used to going with your gut, used to having your timing be perfect, because you're listening to that heart, you can deal with the upset. You can deal with the crazy things that are going to happen. And And if you haven't, if you've kind of given yourself this illusion, this little white picket fence made out of sticky notes, which would be yellow. But it was a good analogy, though. This yellow stick-it fence, which I may have to put into a phrase at some point, but this yellow stick-it fence that you're hiding behind is not going to save you, but it's going to cripple you. It's going to cripple you when something happens that takes you out of it, when something amazing happens or when something horrible happens.
When you are drawn out of that little box that you've made, your 2 dimensions, and suddenly there's a dimension way out here that you have no way of getting back to where you thought you were. You know, what is your reaction? Are you looking at it being, okay, this is a wonderful adventure, or are you screaming your bloody head off going, I don't want this, I'm so afraid? You know, it's like, it's looking at those core reactions and realizing you actually can choose something different.
Yeah.
You as a human being have the capability of choosing something different.
Go with your heart.
Mm-hmm. If you want no regrets.
I want no regrets. I went with my heart. And we're going to have to go and just go with both of our hearts and wind up the show. But this has been The Soul of the Everyman. And this show's been about timing, and I think we have good timing this time. So I'm your host, Michael Lyons.
And I'm Margaret, and thank you for listening.
Thank you for listening.